Hello, I'm Tony, and as I'm sure you can tell from both the title and the fact that this is my face, this is a different type of video. I'm not going to be reviewing a game here. I'm going to be talking about my writing. There are a few reasons for me to talk about my writing. First of all, I want to get motivated to do it because you know what, it's really hard to keep motivated. So if I'm maybe putting out a video once a month or whatever, and I have to give some kind of update on my progress, I might actually do some. Second of all, I'd also like to give a shout out to some of the people that have inspired me to write it. And third, I just thought it might be interesting for people to hear about it. Maybe get someone else into writing as well. First of all, let's start off with why I'm trying to write a book. This isn't because it's always been a dream of mine to write a book or anything like that. I've actually never particularly wanted to do it, but the last few years I've been suffering from a chronic pain condition, and it's kind of stopped me being able to work completely. So I'm really looking for a way to try and make some money. First of those is of course YouTube, and the second is going to be seeing if I can write a book. They are both complete long shots. So, what's wrong with me? I'm not going to go into detail. I'll probably do another video that explains a bit more about what it is that I'm suffering from, because it's a bit of a weird thing. It's something called complex regional pain syndrome. So let me explain a little bit of the history of why I started to want to write. It initially came from the fact that I couldn't travel and I couldn't see my nieces anymore. They live a fair distance away, and I used to regularly visit them. But with the COVID lockdowns and my own issues, I hadn't seen them for getting on for a year and a half. So my youngest niece had gone from 3 to nearly 5, and my eldest had gone from 5 to nearly 8. And I was getting concerned that I was losing touch with them. So I decided to start writing them little stories and try to get them involved, also try and help them resolve the arguments that they were having. That did not work. That's not changed at all, but I wanted to just try and reconnect with them. So I started writing these stories and I videoed them and put them up on not this YouTube channel but a different YouTube channel. I've got a quick clip of one of the stories, just the start of the story, to give you an idea of the kind of vibe that I was going for. So it should be coming up around here somewhere soon.
Millie and Joss could hardly believe their eyes. They were no longer at the village fete, but instead were standing in an arch made of hedges, leading into a corridor of green. Behind them was what appeared to be a large open field, full of amazing looking flowers of all colours. There were the usual red and yellow flowers that they would expect, but also some that were blue and purple, and others that even seemed to be glowing slightly. They looked at each other, eyes wide, no longer giggling. Millie felt worried. Their mum and dad would not know where they were, and they were no longer surrounded by people that they knew. Who knows what lived in the maze? Joss, on the other hand, was fascinated and excited by this turn of events. Imagine a whole new world, a magic world that no one had ever told them about. What amazing and magic things there could be here. She looked around and found the ring Wilfred had mentioned and tied the end of the ball of string to it, using the best knot she knew.
It was just for them, so it wasn't intended to be like a public thing. And I wrote 4 short stories. I think it totaled about 45 minutes in total. And it worked. I got back in touch with them. I reconnected with them. I had some Zoom calls and we discussed what they wanted to see going forward. So I wrote a few more stories. I think there's 9 or 10 all told. It adds up to about 2 hours worth of video. It was really lovely sharing that with them, and like basically some of the stories were their own ideas effectively, or my ideas tailored to them. And it was lovely. It was a really nice experience, and they didn't forget me. The reason I did it on YouTube, it sounds silly I guess, but the reason is that I wanted to make sure that they knew what my face looked like. Because if you're free and you haven't seen someone for 2 years, you don't remember them. So I wanted to keep that. I've seen them since. They've come over, and everything's sort of exactly how it should have been in the beginning. I just wonder whether that would have happened without the story, so I'm glad I did it. But that gave me an idea of potentially turning those stories into something, but I don't know, it didn't feel right because they're like the stories with them. So at the time I didn't really want to spoil that thing that I had with them. So I thought maybe I should write a story. I had a couple of ideas. I started writing one down. It was a metaverse based one. But I had ideas for the world, I had ideas for the technology, but I wasn't getting anywhere. And so it just stayed there for a while, and I almost gave up on the whole idea of making a book. But then I started watching. My next inspiration is the Dungeon Dudes.
Greetings! My name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes.
If you don't know the Dungeon Dudes, they put out content for tabletop role-playing games. It was 5e, but given the recent issues with Wizards of the Coast and the OGL, it's going to be all types of TTRPGs. And they ran a campaign called Dungeons of Drakkenheim. I know what it is, I don't know why I paused so long. They also put out a lot of stuff about being a games master and how you create the worlds and run the campaigns, which basically is storytelling. It's a guide on how to do storytelling. So with that and the campaign, they really inspired me, mostly because the campaign was so agile and changeable. The way that Monty Martin, the DM for it, ran it, it was so... best way to say it is it wasn't fixed. It was, because it's a collaborative storytelling effort between the DM and the players, you can't, as a DM, have a very specific story with plot beats and all of these things in mind and stick to them. You have to have the general outline, the general shape, but you can't stick to it because that's kind of railroading the players, and it's a bit boring. Doesn't let them do what they want to do. So an example I'll give from it that really hit home for me, and kind of spoilers for the campaign if you haven't watched it. I do recommend it if you haven't, it's excellent. But in the first or second episode of the 52 that they did, they have a fight, the characters have a fight with rat creatures, and their leader, which was supposed to be basically fodder for in this fight, it wasn't supposed to be a character, I'd say befriend, but they trick the character into helping them with the mission that they're on, and they keep this character around. So instead of dying instantly, this character becomes an actual NPC. So Monty had to write this character in, had to put motivation behind him, desires, goals, all this sort of stuff, and then went forward, and it actually becomes a very important character in the entire game, which I can see, like, this was the path that was supposed to happen, and because the players took this character in as a sometime member of their group, it completely shifted the entire narrative and it becomes something entirely different. And that kind of changeability, mutability, was really interesting to me. I never really imagined that that's how you wrote a book. So their contribution of how to think about writing, which is what I really got from them, I got technique, not necessarily techniques as such, but a way of viewing how to write something, how to write a story, how to write characters, how to perceive the characters. That was a really big deal for me, and it inspired me to look at what I'd written already and look at it in a different lens. But then a different idea came to mind, and so I could start from scratch, from the kernel of an idea, and build on that with their techniques, and it made the process so much easier. The techniques of each character should have goals, they should have their own traits, their likes, dislikes, their strengths, their weaknesses. They should be a character. You should build a character and refer back to that character whenever issues arise for them, whenever plot points happen. And instead of saying this is what the character needs to do to move a story forward, I looked at it as in, this is what's happened, what are these characters going to do, and that's going to be how I move the story forward. And it made things really line up for how to get from plot point to plot point. Because what I had in my mind was almost like you'd seen a film and you're describing the main elements of the film. You can't remember necessarily all the scenes in between, but you remember the big thing that happens at the beginning that instigates the whole thing. You remember, I don't know, if you're watching a Marvel film, you remember like how they got their powers. You remember the first fight where they lost. You remember the next thing that they did to learn how to control their powers. Then you remember the big fight that they got right. And then you remember them defeating the enemy. I had those kind of substantial plot points in mind, but I didn't have the connective tissue in how they got there. And so using the traits and basically the profile of each character, I used that to determine how they got from plot point to plot point. I have slightly changed some plot points in order to fit in with the characters and not the other way around. The reason Brandon Sanderson is here is not because of his books, which I actually haven't read, which I probably should. Oh, I feel bad now. Anyway, it's not because of his books. It's because, as well as being a very successful author, he runs a course at his university, his old alma mater, on creative writing. He does that basically because he seems to be a really nice guy, and the previous person that ran the course when he went there was also a famous author whose name I can't remember, but I did know it when it was said, and he feels like he wants to give back. As if that wasn't enough, he released all of these lectures on his YouTube channel for free. So there's 13 to 14 hours worth of college level information and teaching on how to write a book. Some of it is similar to what the Dungeon Dudes have put forward in their videos, but there's a lot more actual writing technique involved. Talk about the story arcs, character arcs, how they should interact, the number of interactions, the number of plot points, all that kind of stuff is within these videos. And it's just incredibly generous to put this out there. It's been such a great help. It's a thing that I'm going to go back to again and again, just for refreshing about how things should be done. The lectures are kind of science fiction and fantasy biased, because that's the fiction that he writes. Any fiction it should work for. I do recommend anyone that's thinking of writing to go and watch these lectures. So those are the 3 inspirations for me trying to write a book. Hopefully everyone got something from that watched, or at the very least you don't unsubscribe from the channel because it's not a free game review. Like I say, more reviews will be coming. I'll be planning to do the CRPS video about my pain condition, and I'll be aiming to do some more of these videos. I'll be talking about what problems I come across and any solutions that I might find. I've got a couple of more books to read. I'll go back to the Brandon Sanderson videos about the lectures that he gave to try and find some answers. Maybe that will help someone that's also in the same boat as me. If you've got any advice, please put it in the comments. I do welcome all advice. If you did enjoy this and want some more, please like and subscribe so I do know that people are interested in it. I think that's pretty much all for this video though. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.